Oh, hey, WNBA. I think it was 2 years ago we were talking about this league a ton, and now not as much. But Caitlin Clark was out here in LA last night. I didn't even know it, or we would have tried to go to the game. My family are fans. Caitlin Clark kind of struggling. We'll talk about that in a sec. But the Fever get the win over the LA Sparks. Clark had 24 and 9 assists. Here she is talking about recovering from an injury. Remember, she missed most of last season with soft tissue injuries.
The hardest part of injury, it's still something I'm really battling, kind of almost struggling with, is just like the mental hump of getting over everything. And like, I understand my body almost too well to a point now, and it's probably something I wasn't enough in touch with before my injuries, and now I understand it very well. And so it's like you just become hyper cautious to certain things. And I think that moment in the game where, obviously my back tightened up, I think I almost got confidence from that because I came back in and I played 8 more minutes. And I felt great the last 8 minutes. So I think it's something I can take confidence from, but it's going to take me a little bit to like really get over this mental hurdle of like trusting my body.
For the record, the WNBA officiating is the opposite of the NBA, where in the regular season, they just let you attack each other and don't blow fouls. And women's basketball is not as vertical as men. It's a horizontal league, so there's a lot of contact at the WNBA. A lot of times in the NBA, dudes jump over you. It becomes a very vertical game that you can't, literally that just becomes vertical. That's not WNBA basketball. And so the game is officiated very loosely in the regular season, which has been a complaint. Wouldn't you think the key to this league is keeping Caitlin Clark, at least in the regular season, on the floor?
The whole staying healthy thing. But here's what's shifted, and I say this as someone who's actively watching these matchups. The refereeing is becoming much more strict during the regular season. That was a real issue a few years ago, and it's persisted over recent seasons. Still, we have to give the WNBA some credit for a moment. They really are calling these games more tightly now, and it's making a genuine difference. But before I continue, please remember to hit that subscribe button and watch this video all the way through. When you watch the full video and subscribe at the same time, the view counts explode. Subscriber numbers go through the roof. And this isn't about chasing views or chasing subscribers. It's about producing Indiana Fever, Caitlin Clark content that people actually want to watch and talk about, so that we can hold real, honest, level-headed, impartial conversations. Because we all know there's an endless supply of ridiculous hot takes surrounding Caitlin Clark. So I just want to create a space for genuine, sincere, grounded, unbiased dialogue. I'm trying to redefine how we talk about sports, and I truly believe we're making serious progress. So please do think about subscribing and watching the entire video. It really, truly helps. I love what Caitlin Clark said here, because she is 100% right. And it perfectly mirrors my own experience, my exact experience with injuries. At a certain point in your life, you really aren't that familiar with your own body. Even if you're an elite athlete, even if you're playing every sport and doing all the activities, you're just not that in tune with yourself. I've mentioned this before, it's often not until you get hurt that you actually begin to understand how your body functions and become more attuned to it and what it needs. You learn about muscle imbalances and all sorts of things. You learn because you're spending so much time now with physical therapists. That's what really happens more than anything else. Not only are you obviously getting information from doctors and surgeons and such, but then you're devoting hours to your physical therapist, going through treatments, and you're being educated. You learn so much more about your body, and then you become far more in sync with it. I had no idea what my scapulas were, because I dealt with scapular winging and similar issues, shoulder problems, knee issues, all from playing basketball and other sports. And it wasn't until I got injured. It wasn't until I had these problems that I truly learned how my body operates. I literally had to be trained. I had played sports at a high level my entire life. It was all sports, every sport under the sun. And yet, I could not control my scapulas in a way that made sense. In a nutshell, that means your back and shoulders. I had to be literally coached by a physical therapist using all sorts of different methods to finally gain full control over my scapulas. To lift them up, pull them back, bring them down, and keep them stable while also moving the rest of my body. You literally have to be trained to do that, because before, when I was moving, my scapula was hiking up and doing all the wrong things. And they'd say, no, you need to keep it in place. So it took months and months and months of training. And through that, you become way more locked into your body, which is awesome and great. But then, like she said, sometimes you can become almost too aware. Then every little pain, every bit of tightness, every time you feel something, you think, wait a second, what is this? What's going on? In fact, when you feel a little tingling, that's nerve activation, the nerves in your body firing. That's something I never knew until I got injured. And now, occasionally, when I walk, especially if I've been sitting in this chair making all these videos and I get up to go do something, I'll feel some nerve activation in the bottom of my foot. And then I'm always kind of wondering, what does that mean? What's actually happening? What's tight in my body? Do I need to stretch out my calf? Do I need to stretch something else? Is it this or that? Right? You become so hyperlocked in. Once upon a time I would have just said, oh, my foot's a little weird, it fell asleep or something. I would have thought, oh yeah, I've been sitting, of course that's why it's happening. But now I'm like, no, what actually is that? Is my big toe compressing something? Is a bone putting pressure here? You become so overly focused. So it makes perfect sense that this has been Caitlin Clark's experience. I think she laid it out beautifully for everyone. And it really is part of the journey, to some degree. For her to show that humility, for her to give such an honest answer, that's why I keep asking, what's not to love about Caitlin Clark, right? To be able to give this kind of response. It's a mental hurdle, learning to trust her body. And she admitted, I probably had no real awareness of my body before, and now I have almost too much awareness. I think that's such an honest, grounded answer, and it makes a lot of sense. A whole lot of sense. And I'm very hopeful that the way the WNBA has changed its officiating means this is no longer quite as big a problem. Because she was getting absolutely battered during her first 2 seasons. So it's no surprise that her body was breaking down. It would happen to any athlete, it does happen to any athlete out there. That's why the NBA and the NFL changed their rules. They realized, these athletes are elite. These athletes are special. They can only handle so much wear and tear. That's why the NFL changed how they officiate games. That's why the NBA changes how they call games from the regular season to the playoffs. The way these playoff games are going in the NBA, nobody would be able to play 65 regular season games. Nobody. Not a single player. I don't care if you're LeBron James, Street. F. Curry, Wembanyama, these guys already struggle to play 65 regular season games in general, let alone the playoffs. And you see how they wear down in the playoffs. You see how with each series, each passing game, they absolutely break down. And these are the most elite athletes in the world. And they wear down. They wear down. They wear down. And unfortunately, that's why we're seeing so many injuries even in the playoffs right now. Year after year after year, we have the best of the best getting hurt and not even playing in the postseason, or they do play and then they get injured. Back to back to back years, we've seen torn Achilles tendons in the playoffs. And it's like, yes, because it's grueling. That's why you protect players in the regular season. Protect them in the playoffs too, but there has to be a line drawn somewhere. And I genuinely feel like the WNBA has been doing a better job this season. So I'm hopeful that trend continues. But you can still see it every time they call a foul. Every time a defender is guarding Caitlin and a whistle blows, you see them have an absolute meltdown. You see it. They have a panic attack. They freak out. I've seen it in both of these last 2 games. They lose their minds and go, oh my God. It's like they cannot fathom that a foul was called on them while defending Caitlin Clark. They just can't believe it. They freak out and lose all composure. It happens every single time. Every time. And it's like, can we please stop? Why? The nonsense narrative that Caitlin gets some kind of easy whistle? Because she obviously does not. She gets beaten up every single game. That's the power of narrative. That's the power of a story. We convince these players of something that doesn't actually exist right now. But look at it. Every time a foul is drawn against her, they have a meltdown. An absolute meltdown. Like, are you kidding me? How could you possibly blow the whistle? All I did was whack her across the face. How dare you call a foul? Oh, I was only holding her arm and grabbing her for the entire length of the court. I can't believe you called a foul. And it's like, okay, sure, whatever you say. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about Caitlin Clark? And the fact that she's getting stronger, the fact that she's getting healthier, the fact that she still has to go through this process of learning to trust her body and feel comfortable, that's something every athlete who has ever been injured has to do. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment, whether you agree with me or disagree. Either way, let's start some discussions, maybe get into some arguments, but ultimately let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you be part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing that. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.